This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com. So New Japan is going to announce that Rick Rude is going to be defending what they're calling the WCW International Heavyweight title against Hiroshi Hase at the Tokyo Gym. And then again, 8 days later, they tape some shows at Center Stage on March 3rd. They're going to air on April 2nd. That would have Sting and Pillman beat Roma and Orndorff. When Sting pinned Roma, after the match, Rude would attack Sting, give him the Rude Awakening. And it's written here. Apparently there is some heat because Rude is refusing to drop the strap to Sting, which was the company's original plan. I know you're not exactly booking television here in 94, but do you remember there being an issue with Rick Rude refusing to drop the belt?
Yeah, I'm not buying, I'm not going to agree with refusing. Rick, no. Now, he'll force the issue and force you to discuss it. He'll threaten. He would have threatened. He would have intimidated. But that's because he wasn't satisfied with his contribution to the story, or maybe he didn't understand the why of it all, which a lot of talent didn't care about. They just want to get their paychecks. A lot of, some talent doesn't ever ask why or what happens next. They just want to execute what they're asked to do and do it as well as they can and move on to the next job. But Rick Rude wasn't like that. He had to understand, and you had to give a sufficient answer. And by the way, Rick Rude wasn't alone in that respect. A lot of top talent that actually cared were in that same kind of, for different reasons, and they would manifest it or exhibit it different ways. But, whether it was Rick Rude or Hulk Hogan, the best way that I found eventually to creatively keep Hulk on the same page was to do what I should have done in the first place, which is make sure I've thought through the idea, not just what happens leading up to something, but what happens afterwards. Where does that talent go afterwards? And what is the story? Even if the answer is you go away for 3 months, okay, why and how? And how do we explain my return? So when you lay out an idea, you lay out a complete idea to talent. Now, sometimes it's not possible. Sometimes the situation doesn't necessarily warrant it. But when you're working with top people, I've found the hard way, by the way, the hard way, I've found that the best way to convince somebody of your idea is not just laying out all the exciting things that are leading up to a moment, but to be able to answer the question because you've actually thought it through, not because you're flying by the seat of your pants and making shit up as you go, which comes back to haunt you, by the way. I've been there too. But when somebody asks you, a talent would ask you, okay, I understand this, and this is going to be the finish, but what happens then? If you've thought through what happens then, as well as you've thought through what happens leading up to then, chances are you're going to get talent on board. But more often than not, that's not the case. People don't think through the ideas to that extent. Go back to story structure and formula. But with Rude, if he wasn't satisfied, if you weren't answering the question why, which is another way of saying, what's my character's motivation? What are the stakes? What's the journey? They're not going to say it that way, but that's what they want to know. Why is the story a story? And how does it end and what happens then? Rick was one of those guys that would get in your face and force it. It's not the same thing as refusing. Rick didn't have the opportunity to refuse. Rick did have the opportunity and took advantage of it to force a conversation that should have taken place organically.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.